my fellow webheads. It's your friendly neighborhood Jerry Rasco, and we are back again today to talk about more Amazing Spider-Man. Today we are going to be looking at issue number 60. It is the next part of the storyline that we just kicked off in the previous episode with a mystery villain calling themselves the Brainwasher, but spoilers, if you haven't seen the previous episode, I do recommend checking that out here on the playlist. But the last panel tells us it's the Kingpin. The Kingpin's back, and so Spidey's going to have another interaction with this new big villain. I want to always take a minute to thank everybody who has been supporting the channel. Thank you all, you subscribers. It means so much to me. I really appreciate it. Our numbers are continuing to grow week after week, so thank you for doing that. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so today. It's free. You just click that subscribe button. Helps out me, helps out the channel, and puts you in the running for free artwork. So if you like superhero artwork, we've got it for you. So when we get to the 1,000 subscriber mark, that's the goal for 2026. One lucky winner is going to win this Spider-Man piece of art by yours truly, and this Incredible Hulk piece of art, also by yours truly. So if you're here for Spider-Man, no, I also do another video series featuring the Incredible Hulk comics, going back and reviewing all of them. And so that's what we're going to be doing when we hit 1,000 subscribers, and we are on our way there thanks to you. So thank you all so much for all your support. It means the world to me. I greatly appreciate it. That said, we want to get into this comic, so let's go ahead and take a look at it together and see what we've got. Okay, so here we have the cover to the Amazing Spider-Man number 60, and it is pretty cool. It's different. I like the black background. Really helps the figures pop. There's obviously a lot of drama here as Spider-Man is kind of in a lot of danger, right? He is at the whim of the Kingpin, who is bodily swinging him around like a baseball bat. So this is not going to end well for Spidey, probably. I think it's really good. It's obvious here. You know, we've seen in the past, as you go through all the past episodes, all the issues we've looked at, it's common to introduce a villain, go through a quick storyline, have them step away for a little bit, and then they come back, 10, 15, whatever issues later. We've seen that with Dr. Octopus. We've seen it with the Lizard, stuff like that. Well, Kingpin was just recently introduced and has been brought back very quickly. So to me, it really sells the concept here that Stan Lee really enjoyed the Kingpin as a character, really pushing for Spider-Man to have more what we call today street level villains to deal with, crime bosses, thugs, guys with guns, as opposed to always being supervillain. It's one of the things that makes Spider-Man maybe a little sometimes more relatable hero than, let's say, the Fantastic Four. So they're really pushing the Kingpin here as not only kind of a new real big bad or arch villain of Spider-Man, but also really pushing his power. Now, we know people make jokes about he's big and fat, but we've identified in the comics, they tell you he's muscle, more like a sumo wrestler or just a giant power lifter. But they really play him up, and we'll see in specific pages where they play it up almost like he's the Juggernaut, like he's unstoppable. So really playing up this villain, and I find it very, very interesting. Let's see here. So, one more thing about the cover that I thought was very interesting. They have the Kingpin here in green. Now, typically, the Kingpin does not wear green suits. Kingpin wears white suits. That's what we're familiar seeing him in. But they've colored him out here on the cover in green. Why? Well, because we've talked about this a bunch, right? Color and the psychology of color is very important. Spider-Man being red and blue, those are primary colors. You cannot mix two colors together to get red and blue. These are the colors of your heroes. Again, from a psychology standpoint, red, blue, yellow, scream hero, trustworthy, all that kind of stuff. Then on the flip side of that, you have your secondary colors. So when you mix two primary colors together, yellow and blue make green, red and blue make purple, red and yellow make orange. So you have your villains in your secondary colors. Again, from a psychology standpoint, it's it it's just a symbol. It's a way for our brains to instantly say good guy, bad guy. And we use it a lot. And I've mentioned this in previous videos. We have characters. We have the Green Goblin. Dr. Octopus wears green. The Lizard is green, and usually has purple pants. The Sandman has a green sweater. The Scorpion is green. The Vulture is green. So all of these green characters playing off of the red and blue of Spider-Man is a big deal. Okay, so cool cover. We're going to go inside and take a look at it. As I always tell everybody here, this is a scanned PDF copy of the original book from 1967. I'm sorry, 1968. So you're going to see these advertisements, the yellow paper. It's printed on newsprint, the 4-dot printing. There's no recolors or computer work or anything like that. This is just a straight copy of what the original book was. So it's exactly the way it came out on the newsstands at the time. You have a good. Actually, let's talk about the creative team. We still have Stan Lee writing the book. John Romita is still doing the layouts of the book, and then you have Don Heck is doing finished pencils, and Mike Esposito is still your inker. So we've seen the Mike Esposito inking for quite a while. He's been inking a bunch of issues ever since John Romita came on the scene. But this combination of John Romita just kind of laying out the pages and then Don Heck finishing them, again, is a schedule thing. So you can go back, you can see not only have I talked about it, but I've also provided links to other videos that explain the difference between what a layout, a breakdown, finished pencils, inks, etc., what all that means. But basically, John Romita is just too busy. He's doing this. I think he's working on either Avengers or Avengers covers at the time, that kind of stuff. So to do multiple books is very, very difficult. There's very few people that can pull that off on a regular basis with consistent quality. And so this is where they get the help. So to keep the style of storytelling the same, John Romita is laying out all the action. He's putting on the page where all the figures are going to go and how they're going to interact in space with one another. And then Don Heck comes in and draws the details. So good splash page, good action. We're jumping right into the story. Always love that. Want to kick things off with some action here. So again, just a quick recap. The Kingpin is calling himself the Brainwasher, which obviously doesn't last very long because we find out right away. And he and this scientist over here are using this device to control city officials and government officials so that they can commit their crime sprees unhindered. So at a club, where Mary Jane is, they briefly kind of stun or hypnotize people to go towards the back where the machines are, and then they fully brainwash them. And this is Captain Stacy. This is Gwen Stacy's dad in the chair. And then we have, so Peter kind of figuring out what's going on, ends up going back in the buildings, finds out what's happening, and now there's a fight with the Kingpin. So there we go. And like I said, it's great action pose, good flip. Overall, everything's great. Nice use of the space here to show Captain Stacy in the machine, so we know what's going on from issue to issue. And again, we have the giant Kingpin here. Now, Spidey starts fighting him and using his agility and his speed against the Kingpin's power. But this is kind of my problem. From an art standpoint, this is all drawn exceptionally well. Great camera moves. We have a nice, really low angle as Spidey uses his legs to trip up the Kingpin and knock him into some machinery. We then go to a down shot to see, the reaction of him crashing into stuff. And then the Kingpin pops up and we have a nice Dutch angle. We talked about that, where you turn the axis of the view to create drama there. So he's really using the height of the panel to show that mass of the Kingpin going straight at Spidey. And then on the next page, even, leaping up, putting him into essentially a scissor lock around his head with Spidey's legs. And then the Kingpin swinging him around to get him off, and eventually swinging Spidey around like, as he says, a rag doll. Now, the artwork here is very, very good. I think they're really great. Like I mentioned, all the camera angles, the low shots make the Kingpin look bigger, more powerful, intimidating. The movement is really, really good. I love, even though he's a big round character, you have this nice arc of the figure falling and the arms twisting. This one here, especially on the next page, page 3, where he's trying to get Spidey off of his shoulders, and both of the figures together are really good. You feel that weight leaning back. The only downside, I've said this a bunch of times, I don't like it. I think John Romita has a bad habit of doing it, at least at this phase, and that is putting his characters to stand directly on the panel border. So if we're low and the camera, remember the camera is the eyes of the viewer, so we are down at this floor level because we can see his feet, and we're looking up at the Kingpin's body with Spider-Man on top, then this guy in the background has to be higher, or else now he's standing in a hole, because we've established this is the ground right here. So how are his feet lower than the Kingpin's feet if the Kingpin is standing on the ground? This guy needs to be higher up in the background. So that's another reason I don't like that version of a low angle. Now, using it here is excellent. This is really good. And the angle itself is great. You just need to either have to clip the Kingpin off higher, or you've got to move people up in the background so that they're not standing in holes. But overall, like I said, great art. Everything is done very, very well. The figures are good. The lighting is good. Good shadows, angles, energy. Here's my problem, and it has nothing to do with the art. It's pure storytelling. Why are we portraying the Kingpin like he's the Juggernaut? Remember, Spider-Man, yes, he's young. He's a guy in his early 19, 20 years old, but he's a superhero. He has superpowers. He can bench press a bus. So how strong are his legs? Here's the thing to remember. If Spidey really wants to, he could Mortal Kombat the Kingpin and just pull his head clean off of his body. I mean, that's how strong Spidey is. Now, of course, he's not going to do that because he's a hero, but he could crush him in this leg scissor. Just his head is crushed. And he says, I'm applying all the pressure I can. Now, does that mean all the pressure that his muscles will allow, or all the pressure he can without crushing the guy's head? If that's the case, either way, there's no way that the Kingpin would be able to pry those legs apart so that he could end up swinging him around like this. Now, this part I buy. He's big. He's massive. He plants himself. He can use centrifugal force to spin Spidey around, no problem. But there's no way the Kingpin should ever out-muscle Spider-Man. It just should not happen. So that's a story element that I have a problem with. But other than that, the sequence is phenomenal. So the Kingpin throws him, not thinking, of course, because his rage gets the best of him, and he crashes into the machinery, and now there's all kinds of smoke and damage, and we've got to try to... the bad guys have to try to save the brainwashing machine while Spidey escapes, because he's been hit with a lot of electricity into this power source. Okay, there's only one problem here I don't care for. So this panel up here, nice, a good horizontal layout for somebody going from right to left across the page. Very nice stuff there. Generic kind of explosion, no problem with that. The thick smoke so Spidey can escape out the window. Here's my problem. He then ends up climbing up a building. The angle of the building, the drawing of the building is very nice. Spidey's hands are really wrong here, especially this left hand. So this is the edge of the building. You can't, I tried, I took, I'd take a horizontal surface or a vertical surface and try to figure out how could I make my hand kind of fit around that way, but also be starting sort of bending around a corner and grabbing, and I couldn't figure out how it would work. The easier thing would be to have him actually gripping the corner, but that's not how it's drawn. So I didn't care for the hands here. And something to remember, we mentioned this before, if you are a young, or I say young, what I mean is newer artist, hands are so critical. A good hand will really sell the humanity of your characters, even like a character like Spider-Man where he has no face, right? His mask has covered his face. Those hands really help humanize you. Bad hands can take you right out of a drawing very easily. So anyway, just something to take into consideration. And then actually one more thing I just noticed here as well. This line in this panel, so he's been hit, he's weak, he's trying to crawl out of the machinery and out to the window where he can escape, right? No problem. This hand hanging down is a horrible tangent. So a tangent, we've talked about it, it's when two objects are in space and the outline, like the edge of them, lines up perfectly, so you can't necessarily tell which one's in front of the other. So because they don't overlap at all, you don't see it. So when they line up perfectly and then you go like this, it can be hard to tell what's forward, what's backwards. So it flattens out the illusion of 3 dimensions, and that's what you have here. So the line of this is his forearm, and then wrist and the top of his hand coming down lines up exactly with the top part of the back of his arm, and really flattens it out. And because it's all this solid red color, if you zoom out and you're not paying attention, you can almost miss that it's the hand, and it just becomes odd. So again, something to really watch for in your own art are tangents. All right, so now they're back to business. The brainwashing machine is back up and running, so they're going to brainwash Captain Stacy, which I think is very interesting. There's times, and we'll see it here or there, where he looks exceptionally old. Like sometimes they really draw him almost like he's like as old as Aunt May. But then here you see him, and he just has this really like very square jaw, thicker, face, tough face. I thought he should have looked a little older in this particular image. And then here's another thing I didn't understand, and that is the Kingpin and the lighting on the Kingpin. So something to take consideration of. Sometimes we draw stuff in comics because it looks cool. That's the reality, right? You just want somebody to look at the image. It doesn't have to be exact. It doesn't have to follow all the rules. You can break the rules if it looks cool. And you go, okay, that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense and takes somebody out of the story or confuses what we're trying to look at, this is where I have a problem with it. And this is a very classic lighting technique that you see a lot in comics, especially on villains. Their face, and they have this shadow that runs up and down the center of the face. And I honestly have never really understood it because it doesn't make sense. Lighting is important, and the light is always going to strike and illuminate the parts of a face. You will go with face specifically here, that stick out, right? If my light is above me, it's always going to hit the parts that stick out. So my nose sticks way out. I got a big nose. My nose is going to be lit. Your bottom lip sticks out a little bit past your top lip. So top of your lip, your chin should stick out a little bit. These are things, if it's coming from above, that's what's going to be lit. Your cheekbones are going to be lit. If light is coming from below, it's going to block it. So the stuff that stuck out now is going to cast its own shadow. So here's the point. In order for the top of your nose to be shadowed, your own nose has to block the light. So to be the center of the nose, that light has to be coming from below. And the bottom of my nose is going to block it. So the light goes up, shadow. But if the light is coming from below, the top of his head should be in shadow. But the top of his head is lit. His cheeks would be in shadow. The top of the cheek under the eye. But it's not. It's lit. And there's a shadow below the cheek where the fat of his cheek is and the creases of his foot. So there's light coming down, there's light coming up. None of it is consistent, and none of it makes sense in that face. So don't do it. It's not it's not something that makes sense. It's used in comic language, visual language, I guess, as bad guy, or it's supposed to be dramatic lighting, but it's just wrong, and I dislike it. Um, let's go to something much nicer. Mary Jane is gorgeous. This is a great Mary Jane face, and I did complain a little bit in the last episode that I didn't think the faces were up to snuff. John Romita is known for drawing very, very beautiful ladies, and his female faces, are incredible. He designed Mary Jane. He really brought her to life. This is a great Mary Jane face. This is a John Romita great Mary Jane face. Also, Gwen looking much better than in the previous issue as well, the way she's being drawn. So the ladies are looking much prettier and more what I expect with John Romita. So a little more consistency there is very, very nice. Same on the other page. Very nice looking, great stuff. Good female faces, but also big expression. I mean, Mary Jane's telling him about what happened. There was a fight with Spider-Man. He knocked out some goons. She has expression on her face. She's selling it. The turns. Captain Stacy comes out to tell him, no, everything's fine. And so, okay, they relax a little bit, and there's more smiles, and Gwen is happy to see her dad, and all that kind of stuff. So much better female faces in this issue. I like the attempt here on the next page of trying to show double vision. So Spidey, having been hit with that much electricity, is seeing double. How do you do that? Today it would be very easy. You could just draw one image. We would blur it in Photoshop, or copy it, blur it in Photoshop, and then paste it over blurred and mess with the transparency so that you'd see both blurry shapes at the same time. Can't do that back then. So the only way you could do it is sort of just double draw. But it's a good attempt at a difficult visual cue. Like, how do you explain that? So good attempts at that. I don't know what's going on with Spidey's foot here. It's just hanging in the air, so it should be resting on something, especially because he's resting his weight on it, and it's just sort of hanging in the air. So I don't know what that mistake was. If maybe the wall was supposed to come over more, and it's supposed to be sticking to the wall behind him, or they just misdrew the ledge below. I don't know. It's almost like he should have been sitting on the ledge, not resting against the wall behind him. And so because it's not drawn high enough, like under his butt, this would be on the front of the vertical plane below him, and then this could have just been hanging off the side. But I don't know what happened there. Little miscommunication for sure. And now Spidey's just hanging that leg out there. Yeah. So pretty good. He's okay. So he's seeing double. So he's got to get home. He's trying to figure, how's he going to move? He misses the flagpole, sticks to the wall, tries to web shoot. Can't hit the tower because he's seeing both of them. So he's not hitting either of them. I like the Spidey pose. The large image is great. Again, the attempt at double vision of doing the two towers. The only problem here is he didn't trigger his web shooter. He shot a web at it and he missed, but none of his fingers are pressing the trigger. And I've had some problems with this. I don't know what this art team is doing. They really tend to just draw him shooting his webs with one finger, like this, instead of the classic like this. But in this case here, they missed it altogether. He's not even pressing, and we know that that's how it works. So it's small. It's a subtle thing. It would be very easy to fix. But at the same time, people, hey, you got to get this to print, and do we need to take the time to fix his fingers? And nobody will notice. I notice, but that's what I do here. Let's see. Oh yeah, my question as well. He ends up crawling down the wall and walking home. And I'm wondering, couldn't his spider sense help him navigate if he can't see right? We've seen in things where he's fighting where there's smoke or darkness or something, or like a Mysterio, and he'll close his eyes and he can navigate through a room or where he needs to by his spider sense. Why couldn't he do the same thing here? Why couldn't he literally just close his eyes and use his spider sense to help him get around? Just, I have no idea. Just throwing it out there. Um, let's see. What else have we got on our notes? Okay. So he's trying to figure out what to do. He's thinking about Gwen a lot. And is Captain Stacy now going to be working for the Kingpin? How is he going to address that? And comes to the final conclusion that he is in love with Gwen Stacy and finally commits it. So this is our real commitment to Peter and Gwen being an item. I do like this Spidey pose here as well. It's a shame that it's cut in the middle with this the tail of this word balloon. Would have been nice maybe to go around the edge and not cut off the middle of the figure. I don't talk about lettering that much, to be honest, because I'm not an expert in it myself. I'm actually I'm in the process of teaching myself lettering and trying to do it, and it is a challenge. It's its own artwork. It's its own art form to get things, all the words to fit, and then in a way where people can follow them. It's hard. But that being said, that tail, I would have liked that word tail to go in a different direction and not cut this nice drawing. Now, instead of double vision, it's just blurry. And again, it's a nice attempt at blurry vision with the printing technology we had at the time. Again, today, very easy with Photoshop. Back then, you can't do it. So how do you draw something blurred with not blurred lines? Thin lines, double thin lines, triple thin lines around outlines, and very loose coloring. So good way to do it. Good attempt there. Peter wants to find out what's going on, so he's kind of trying to he heads over to the Stacy's house to figure things out, and see what's going on with Captain Stacy. So he talks to him, and obviously he's very different. We go from a Captain Stacy that's very warm to Peter, that seems to like him and Spider-Man a lot, and then now he's very short. And when Peter says he's going to go to the police about what happened at the club, Captain Stacy tries to attack him. Now, this is why I was talking about the older face. So real quick, I'm going to zoom in on Captain Stacy's face here. So you can see fairly thin nose, a lot of lines around that scowl and the forehead and that kind of stuff. More pronounced jutting cheekbones. Again, a little more gaunt, thinner, older face. And that's why I say, to me, it felt very different when we go back to where he's here, where that face is very thick. Just look how square that jaw is. There's no protrusion. There's no thin on the cheekbones, the way that we see later, that we see here. So that's what I mean. So to me, I think this is probably more accurate and where we want to be, especially after this happens. So Peter's spider sense triggers. He knows he's going to try to hit him, and he just has to deflect the hit and with an open hand, but he's strong, and it's just a reaction. And so he's going to knocks down Captain Stacy. And it doesn't help that he sells it because he's an older guy. One thing I want to point out here, beyond the face, and that is this hand. So I like the pose. I like him being very strict and demanding with Peter, but you can look just in the camera here with me in the corner. When I do this, my hand is maybe 8 to 10 inches in front of my face. And look how big my hand is in the camera compared to my head. My hand looks like it's the size of my head because it is closer to you, right? So the more my hand comes out, the larger it gets in relation to me in the background. This is depth. It's things that are bigger, closer, are bigger. This hand is not big enough to be in front of him. He'd be holding it like here because it's too small. So this hand, to be pointing and doing this, the hand really needs to be bigger. And I would even go so far, you could fill up this corner. You could even have it clipped a little bit. I don't need to see every knuckle or even every finger. You could cut it at the bottom, for me to see that it's a big hand. But the power of the pointing finger where he's like, don't you understand me? That means to be larger because it's threatening, and hand's not big enough. Peter knocks him down, and then of course he can't explain himself. Now, he could explain himself. I just asked him. He took a swing at me, and I just raised my arm to keep from being hit. And of course, then you have two stories. But the fact of the matter is, Peter doesn't even explain. He's like, it's not what you think. And Gwen Stacy's like, you hit this old man. And he's like, he's like, no. And Gwen says, well, deny you didn't hit him. And of course, Peter can't be like, well, I didn't hit him. He swung at me and I blocked his arm. He has, no, I mean, technically, yeah, I hit him. Well, it's just, yeah. Okay. Come on, Pete. You're smart. Be smarter. I do really like the background here. It's very nice. It's set up really nice with the file cabinets, the books on top. There's you can see there's a frame hanging on the wall, curtains, and pattern on it. Like, it's a real established room and space. And I think that's really nice. Not everybody does that. Sometimes it's real easy to just sort of, I'll say cheap out. It's not really what I mean, but just to kind of, give a little hint of the background. But this is very well thought out and feels like a real, like, study of, in someone's home. Sorry, I zoomed in and I zoomed out without explaining why I zoomed in the first place. Gwen is crying. This is not crying. Now I get it. She's a smaller figure, but these are big panels, and she just has like a little teardrop on her cheek. Now, the teardrop on the cheek, and there's another one up here, is a sort of symbol for crying. I get it. But you have a big enough figure, you could do a stream of tears, and we would still understand that as well. A little teardrop just sort of sitting there doesn't really sell the emotions, how emotional she is about this. And it could be more dramatic. Let's see. So Peter leaves, and now what is he going to do? Oh boy. Captain Stacy immediately calls the Kingpin because he's still under his mental control. And I like, this is a good upshot of the Kingpin on the phone. I think this is great. You can see, so the head is in perspective. There is essentially foreshortening when you tip your head back. And when you have a character like the Kingpin that has as round a head, you're not going to see much on the top. So you move those eyes and eyebrows. Everything goes up as you tilt your head back. The nose shortens, and things like the jaw and upper lip and stuff lengthen, because again, it's just about what's closer and further away. As things get further away, they get smaller. As they get closer, they get bigger. We just talked about that with the pointing hand. It's the same with a face. So this is a very, very nice upshot. That's a hard angle to do, and it's done exceptionally well. The Kingpin wants Peter, I guess, roughed up. Well, they say, like, he doesn't say exactly. They don't spell it out. The thugs are like, he's just a kid. Why don't we just, lean on him a little? And this guy's like, nope. You go get him. So I guess, they're going to kill him? I mean, they end up pulling guns as they get to the apartment and kind of threatening Harry and smashing some stuff. But it's not quite explain exactly what they're there to do. I did want to point this out. I thought in this one, normally, John Romita as the main artist is usually very good with his background characters. Does a good job of creating crowd scenes and stuff like that. I thought these thugs were a little meh. Like this face here. I mean, I get it. Here's a nice little touch. He gives the guy a big cauliflower ear and a big, kind of a broken nose. But I thought the details of the face were a little thin. Especially then you get some other background characters. Mrs. Watson, who lives with Aunt May, who's still recovering from her most recent stress. This face, very meh, just kind of there, kind of dashed out, quick few lines, not much in the way of any kind of expression or emotion. She's just sort of there. The thugs, when they get to Peter and Harry's apartment, again, just sort of there. I don't know. It just struck me, especially like these couple panels with these faces. I wasn't really sold on them. They're not bad. I don't know. There's something about it. Again, my opinion. Your mileage may vary. And then this one here, I didn't like that. Don't have the thug. So he's kicking in a door. Great. They're going through the apartment. They're looking to see if Peter's hiding somewhere in a closet, whatever. Don't have him kick the panel, right? Just like you don't have your character stand on the border. Don't have your character punch or kick the border either, because again, now it looks like he's trying to break into the next panel over. There's plenty of ways to have him break stuff or look around or smash through a door or whatever. Just kind of squeezing it in on the border isn't necessarily the best way to do it. I also don't understand what this is. So it looks like it's a case. So he's kicking in a door and some sort of case goes flying away. So I don't understand what's happening. Let's see. All right. Peter's back. His vision is getting better. It's blurry, but it's close enough. He can still maneuver. So he takes off. Panel 4, yeah, where he's here. Spidey's going to strike again. Great image of Spidey clinging to the building. On the tiptoes, fingertips, the shadow behind, the way the weight is hanging off that building and twisting his shoulders back, opposite of the hips, and the head turn. Great pose, great energy. I mean, you could take, again, I've said this before and other things, you could take this small panel, blow it up, and it could be a cover today. So very nice stuff there. This one here of him swinging away, double web swinging, kicking his feet up in the air, also really cool. Interesting swing pose and neat idea. This one not so much, as he's leaping from one flagpole to another. It doesn't work for me. And the reason is I'm not 100% sure. I think it's the drawing here. It's trying to be, again, that foreshortened perspective where Spider-Man is coming at us. So his hands should be a lot bigger, and then his legs should taper away. If you make it more dramatic, it becomes more obvious that he's going back in distance, in the depth of the space. But he's drawn very flat, so it almost looks like he's just sort of coming at us. He's not directed right towards us. He's sort of coming like flat at you. So that pose I don't think worked as well for me as certainly as the other ones did. The other ones are great. Really good down shot here as Spidey is swinging around trying to find where the Kingpin is now and where Captain Stacy's going and what's going on. Good stuff. Really nice camera angles. It's being switched all the time. So down shot here, over the shoulder with Spidey, worm's eye view of the car as he's following them from up above. Very, very nice stuff. Another nice angle of the thugs and Captain Stacy walking into the police department. It's Spidey way off in the background. I always love this framing of Spidey hanging off a building and looking through a window at something that's going on inside. Really nice stuff there. And setting up his camera. All really, really good. The really good stuff here. Great window break. The glass is in front of him. It's very dramatic. I really like it. We've established the big window. That part's really good. Him swinging through, kicking the guns out of the thug's hands so it turns into a fist fight is cool. And this pose is awesome. This is a terrific drawing of the two guys trying to punch and tackle Spidey and him kind of twisting in space to grab a hold of them. This is a really, really nice panel. Low angle, little tilt. You've got Captain Stacy in the background. Everybody's feet are just slightly off the ground, which shows the action, the energy. I like it. Really good stuff here. The only one that's not great is this one. This Spidey head doesn't really sell it. It's a little too big. He's got this big old melon on top of his head. That one should have been shrunk up a little bit there. But beyond that, the rest of the stuff is very, very good. Captain Stacy conks him on the head with his cane, but Spidey can't do anything to stop him because he doesn't want to hurt him anymore. So he lets himself get whacked in the head, and then they all leave. Spidey grabs his camera, and he gets the pictures, but what is he going to do? Nobody's going to believe him, so he's got to go and tell the truth, and that is that Captain Stacy broke into the police department and is stealing files. So he takes them to Jonah to print, and then this is going to hopefully shine some light on what's going on, but of course Gwen Stacy's going to see it, and she knows it's Peter. So that's the drama, that's the cliffhanger. What's going to happen to Captain Stacy? What's going to happen to Gwen and Peter now that he has admitted to himself that she's the girl for him, that he's in love with her? Is this going to ruin everything before it starts? What are we going to do? And there's our comic. So we've got a nice cliffhanger for the next episode. Let's head over to the desk and let's wrap things up. Okay, so that was Amazing Spider-Man number 60. And just want to again point out my Spider-Man shirt as well. I love to get into the mood for these videos by getting on my Spider-Man gear and going through these episodes and these issues with you. This is interesting. So, you know, the Kingpin is really, like I said, being pushed as one of Spidey's new big villains, a reoccurring regular villain. It's going to cause him a lot of problems. We've got the Peter-Gwen relationship. Is it going to blow up before it even starts? Hopefully not. We'll see. How is this all going to play out? So pretty good. I know I talked a lot. There's a lot of things in there where I said, like, this doesn't work or that doesn't work from an art standpoint. But overall, there's a lot of good here. There's a lot of good storytelling. There's great page composition. A lot of good for a book that doesn't have a ton of action. There's that little bit of action in the beginning with the Kingpin. There's a little bit towards the very end with a couple of the thugs there when they're robbing the police station, the police records. For a comic that doesn't have a ton of action, there's actually a lot of really good energy, movement, figure poses, stuff like that, that I thought were really excellent that people should take a look at and learn from. So overall, for my ranking, I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. I think it's pretty good. It's heading us in an interesting direction. I want to see what happens with Peter and Gwen. It's one of the few times I'm actually maybe starting to get a little more interested in the Peter's life B story as I am the Spider-Man A story. The brainwashing thing doesn't do much for me personally. I always find it a little bit of a hokey bit when it's used, but again, the what's going to happen with Peter and Gwen is kind of an interesting story. So I'm looking forward to the next issue. I hope you are too. Thank you for spending your time with me today. I look forward to seeing you next week with even more Spider-Man. Thanks.